There are some fascinating ones. Some of them are publicly acknowledged, some of them are not. What I'm seeing is that a lot of traditional actors, especially, we sort of refer to them as like blue chip contemporary galleries, are very, very conscious of the landscape that their fiefdom, their traditional fiefdom is definitely changing and definitely slightly being pulled out from under their feet. So they need to adapt to survive. And part of that is there's quite a lot of merger and acquisition going on. So for instance, just a basic example, Pace Gallery, a very large gallery, multi locations around the world. Some of the most important artists, contemporary artists, represented on their roster. They recently developed, not recently, but a few months ago, Pace Verso, which followed on the back of them acquiring Art Blocks, which was a generative NFT platform that was very much Web3 oriented. So you've got acquisitions coming through. So basically, traditional organizations purchasing relatively young actors within the space as a way of extending their capacity. But I think what we're also seeing is a real hybridization. So, for instance, if you cast your mind, should we say, back to the pandemic, or at least cast your mind back to 2020, the traditional art trade was absolutely rocked because, no longer could people physically meet, physically share, collecting ideas, etc. Because obviously, we were isolated, and so those are some of the building blocks that the art trade really relies on, is that sort of physical relationship development. So how do you then persist as a member of that trade when you can't do it? Well, what happened was we all transitioned online really quickly. Online viewing rooms emerged out of nowhere, basically. And suddenly you realize that some of the largest galleries in the world, the Gagosians, the Hausenverses, the Paces, etc., they all had to create, whether they had it already happening or not, they had to create some kind of digital capacity overnight. So an example of that would be if you had a large gallery at a large art fair, they would have, most of them still have physical booths in the art fair, so you can go and visit them, but they'll also have a hybrid digital booth, effectively an online viewing room. And that's offered up multi-channel sales opportunities for them. So some people who can't make, for instance, Freeze London is effectively next week. If you can't get to London, well, that's not a problem, because if you're in Manila right now, you can access the viewing room of a gallery that's participating in Regent's Park in the middle of London, and you can ask them, you can inquire on a work that might be on their physical booth in town. So in other words, I think galleries are really seeing the benefits of having a kind of a multi-channel sales mechanism, and there's no way that the online presence is going anywhere, but I think there is a little bit of safety when you've got bricks and clicks, because clicks, sure, that's wonderful and it's very efficient, but bricks, you can knock on the door if something goes wrong and say, give me my money back, and that may not always be the case in just a digital proposition, potentially.
I would like also to add here a bit on the question you asked before, Gareth, of the coexistence of art, and if some, let's say, intermediaries or museum are going to be obsolete in the future. So we believe that traditional art will still remain. So, and for example, a museum, what is the task of a museum? To preserve our heritage and cultural heritage, and to give access to let's say, these art pieces. And I think this will still remain. And also, I think we will have a new genre in terms of, a new, you have, let's say, you have an advisor for digital art, for example, you have a gallery for digital art, and you will have collector, as the same way as it in the traditional world. So if you find a famous collector and you look for the provenance of an art piece and you see, okay, Fatty's collecting X, Y, Z. So this means really something also in the digital art. So I believe that we have a lot of, let's say, same things happening in the digital world, also, which is basically the same as in the traditional world. And I think also from an investment perspective, there are not much difference. I believe there will be some changes, but still I believe in coexistence, and as also Gareth mentioned, so big and famous houses engaging in digital art is very nice to see, and I'm very excited to see what will be next. And I think we should be open-minded and enjoy the ride and see